Our guest today has long been a source of controversy, from her groundbreaking feminist book almost 50 years ago to her more recent comments about things like the Me Too movement and violence against women on TV. So, as someone unafraid to say what she really thinks, what does she make of this week's news that more than half of UK students don't support free speech? Well, let's find out. Please welcome Germaine Greer.
Germaine, back in 2015, a university withdrew their invitation to you to go and speak because they didn't want to hear what you had to say. And then you subsequently did go there and make the speech. So what do you think when you hear now that so many students don't want to hear views if they're not the views they already hold?
Do you know, it seems to me, for me, it's really déjà vu, because when I remember now, which I hadn't thought about for years, my first year at Melbourne University, a Christian university, I was a member of the Newman Society. He'd just been sainted. And I gave a speech, a lecture about shame. And the argument was that shame is created by the church. It's not a natural part of a sexual reaction, that when you come away feeling soiled, it's not that you are soiled, it's that someone has given you the idea that you're soiled. And there am I standing there, straight from my convent school. What did I think I was doing? And I survived, but I know that I got a reputation.
Yeah.
And I've still got it. I'm either a lesbian or a nymphomaniac. Or both.
Or both. Sounds great.
Sounds like hard work. So, yeah, I think students have always been intolerant. We don't know how this poll was constructed. No. For example, first years probably have quite strong feelings that are traditional, that get battered by the university and eventually lose them. Well, you hope.
Yes.
But it doesn't necessarily happen.
You taught at universities for years, so you must have seen it in action.
Yes, except I don't remember my students as being particularly bigoted, except perhaps when I was teaching in Tulsa. Yeah. Because creationism was de rigueur. You had to believe what no scientist I've ever met believes. I think there's a few, there's a handful somewhere. I seem to have encountered a website recently that I've been wandering around the net. But for example, I don't understand why people who have certain beliefs can't just relax, because I don't believe in God, but I don't go around yelling at people who do.
Exactly, yeah. Do you find that nowadays you do edit yourself more? Do you feel that you have to be careful what you say nowadays? Because there's somebody that you're going to offend somewhere about everything?
Why doesn't anybody worry about what offends me? I get offended every single day. I'm being offended at the moment because the British can't tell me where the bloody bushfires are. I've got a property in southeast Queensland, and I've got to make a phone call to find out if it hasn't burnt down. And I think, you know, there are 1 million Australians in this country, and you can't tell them where these fires are. How hard could it be? In fact, you can go online and find diagrammatic maps. Then you realise that the fire isn't sweeping the entire east coast. But to go around saying that it is, and that it menaces Sydney and all of that, it's panic mongering.
Well, that's true though of all news media now, that news is kind of edited down into like short statements and that's what politicians are doing too. I mean, when we were talking just now about free speech, don't you think that what's happened is that people write and speak in kind of headlines? There's no and they're not willing to debate.
Well, that's partly probably because of social media, I think. That people haven't the patience or the time to read long articles and explanations. Once upon a time, that's what journalism did. But now it doesn't do that. And instead, you have enormous amounts of totally dubious information about celebrities, which if half of it was true, they'd have to be exhausted.
In this modern world, I would really love to know what your view or definition of or how you see feminism now. What? Because I put on my social media something about, you know, I'd see myself as a feminist, and somebody wrote about, you're not a feminist, you're a Westerner. And I thought, what? What does that mean? So what's your take now?
that means the person who wrote back to you is rather ignorant. Right. And in particular about Islamic feminism, which is real and powerful and dangerous. I mean, these women are putting their lives on the line. I was terrified when women wrote to me from Saudi Arabia asking for the rights to the female eunuch. I wanted to tell them, don't publish it because you're putting yourselves in the firing line. I still don't know what the outcome has been. It's not the first Arabic edition, as it happens. There is another one. And the Farsi edition was made by Mary Manucherian, who was the first woman jurist from Iran. So it's a real deal. Someone who writes to you and says you can't be feminist because you're Western, I think they're reacting to the fact that America assumes ownership of feminism. And I read an article just yesterday which claimed that CEDAW, the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, was an American idea that had been proselytized by a Nixon appointee and that it embodied the American values. And I thought, that's not true. But they will keep doing that. People might think that I'm a worldwide figure in feminism. I'm absolutely not, and absolutely not in America. And partly because I don't think you can be a Republican and a feminist. I think that's a bit step too far.
Germaine, do you think that there is any truth or any weight in the argument that feminism, or extreme feminism, if that is such a term, has been responsible for sidelining men and making them not know what their role is? And I mean, do you know, I'm not sharing that, I'm just saying, do you think, I know that that's something that you will come across often.
Well, what do I come across often? I just wish women did sideline men a bit more. Men are terribly important to women. And our problem is not that we are man-haters, but that we are man-lovers. We put ourselves
But is there anything wrong with that?
in extreme vulnerability. No.
No.
Except that we're taking a lot of punishment. I mean, 2 women get killed every week in this country by their partner. I don't think we even account for 1 a year. And we also know that we're not doing well on the domestic violence front. We can't get action, we can't get convictions, women, and why? Because women withdraw the complaint. Why do they withdraw the complaint? Because they don't want to put the father of their children in jail. Is that a riddle?
Oh, well, Germaine, I could sit and listen to you all day. It's lovely to have you here and hear your opinions. Sadly, we're out of time, but ladies and gentlemen, for now, Germaine Greer. Thank you.